Mr. Edit Man presents those who work in law enforcement. How often do people try to turn themselves in for something that is not a crime? And what's the most memorable one? I was a boarding officer in the Coast Guard. We were doing recreational boat boardings around Catalina Island. Mostly educational/safety boardings, but always looking for smugglers. Stopped a small boat just to do a safety inspection and inform them of the small craft advisory. I jumped on board first, and before I could say a word, an 8-year-old boy thrusts his hands out at me, 4 handcuffs, and cries, "I'm sorry, officer. Grandpa told me it was okay if I had one. Please do not hurt him. His grandfather had let him drink one his odd owls. We told the kid it was our little secret." I work in dispatch. One night 2 girls, edit. They were in their early 20s. Walked in saying they needed to go to jail. They said that they got into a fight earlier and felt like they needed to be punished. I was dumbfounded. I keep asking these girls if they were serious. They were. So I call an officer down, he talks to them, and about 10 minutes they are walking out in handcuffs. I later talked to that same officer, and he told me the girls were trying to smuggle weed to their girlfriends that were in jail. I was 11 or 12 visiting a local coffee shop that roasted their own beans with my parents during a bike ride down the green belt near our home. For some reason, I just had to have a coffee bean that was drying on the roasting rack. So I took it and stuck it in my pocket without anyone noticing. I was wearing those tiny pocketed jean shorts that were also popular in the early 2000s, and as I went to mount my bike, the coffee bean fell out of my pocket and clattered to the ground. My parents noticed, and after a teary confession from me, flagged down a police officer nearby and had him explain to me why theft is wrong and almost put me in handcuffs to teach me a lesson. After my parents were satisfied that I had learned from the experience and forced me to march right up to the counter and wait in line to return the single bean, the cop leaned in close and whispered, "Do not worry, kid. Everyone makes mistakes. Even though your parents are uptight, at least they care. Not everyone is so lucky." Ruffled my helmet hair and went on his way. To this day, I wish I could thank him for one of the most valuable life lessons ever, even though I did not fully understand till much later. Rarely, but if it does happen, it's usually a parent turning their kid in. More often than not, we have to deal with the crazies who want to press charges on someone for something that is not a crime, or trying to drop a felony charge on a person who tried to run them over with a car or something. Pro tip: you cannot just make a felony charge go away. If you make a statement to the cops that someone tried to kill you, they will arrest that person if they find them. I accidentally threw a frisbee through a 150-year-old 6-wide decorative window. I called the cops expecting to pay money or something. They showed up and just said thank you for being honest. They said they were really impressed with me but the truth is my name and phone number were on the disc. I used to work at a bottle store. Once, a homeless person, a regular, came to me and offered to exchange his brand new bike for a bottle of vodka. Clearly, it was not his bike. So I said yes, thinking of taking the bike to the police so that someone could get their bike back. After work, I took it to the police station and explained the situation to the cop, and she told me that she was going to charge me with receiving stolen property. I spoke to her sergeant, who told her she was a loser, and he thanked me for helping. To sum it up, I almost turned myself in for something that should not be a crime. Someone I know, who was 16 at the time, set a bag of crap on fire and rang a doorbell. The guy stomped it out. You know how it goes. I suppose the kid felt bad, since it was an old man, and turned himself in. The cops have seen this kid at the local hangout spot in front of a convenience store, so they told him to be at the store noon the next Saturday to pick up trash and cigarette butts in the parking lot. When he was done, they thanked him for being honest and said, "Do not be an idiot. You could burn someone's house down all because of a bag of crap." It was not a non-crime, but it was a memorable turn-in for me. I had an offender, I worked probation, who had several outstanding misdemeanor warrants for band, assault on female, and larceny. I was trying to convince him to come to the office so I could have the warrants served. He refused and told me he knew he had warrants. He said, "Just give me to the 18th. Just give me a week." I said no. He needed to come in immediately. He of course refused. He was a pathological liar for all the time I knew him. Heavy drug user. Lied about everything and anything. Excuse after excuse after excuse. Lo and behold, on the 18th I get an alert on my computer that he had been booked at the county jail. Just like he said he would. No one ever does that. Cop for 15 years. Never had anyone turn themselves in for something that's not a crime. Much more common to have people jump up and down to the point of rabid frothing mouth anger wanting someone they know arrested for something that is not a crime. Just to give an example, before I'm asked. Had a lady who wanted me to arrest her neighbors because every time she would go outside they would make fun of her to each other on their porch. She said they were saying things that weren't true about her to each other and she demanded I arrest them for slander. I work in immigration, and usually during the holidays we will get illegals that turn themselves in for a free ride back to their country of birth. Suitcases and all. I'm from a small town. There was a homeless guy, by choice, who would steal stuff on cold nights just so he could spend the night in a warm jail cell. In the end the police would just tell him to take the property back and let him sleep in the station. This was back in the 50s and 60s. So when I was like 8, I stole a pebble from a fish tank. You know those multicolored tiny gravel chunks. I stole a bright orange one. I reached right in the fish tank, grabbed the tiniest one I could find, like 1/10 the size of a penny, and put it up my nose. I got all the way out of the pet store before I just started bawling. My mom asks me what's wrong. I tell her I have to talk to a clerk. We go back inside. I pull a tiny orange pebble out of my nose and hand it to him. Or try to, he does not exactly take it. I confess I stole it and ask to go to jail now. Yep. That's my big crime. I work at a pet store, and once, a little kid comes up to me, crying and opens his hand, and inside is a tiny little fish. The kid is bawling at this point. The mom is freaking out, saying she has no idea how he even caught the fish. The older sister is yelling at the little kid, telling him he murdered a fish in cold blood, and the older brother is looking confused, but kind of proud. So I take the fish and put him back in the tank. The fish looks dazed, but continues swimming. I told the little kid to stop crying, and then I said the fish was okay, but that he could not do that again, because fish live in water. I thought the whole situation was bizarre. Those little duckers are really fast. Nobody saw the kid reach into the tank and grab it. It takes me about 30 seconds to get one of those suckers with the net, and he just dips his hand in and grabs it, without killing the fish, and without anyone, including his siblings who were watching him, grab the fish. When I was a rookie patrolman, a teenager flagged my car down and confessed to accidentally running over a cat with his moped. He put his hands on the hood of my car and asked how much time he would get for animal cruelty. He was actually really shaken up. I felt really bad for him. I explained that, as long as he did not do it on purpose, it was not a crime, and gave him a ride home with the moped half hanging out of my trunk. I also once had an elderly woman come in with her grandson and ask us to arrest him because he was committing sexual abuse. When we asked her who he was abusing, she answered himself. She caught him jerking off and tried to get him arrested for it. I tried to turn myself in for carrying concealed weapons. Oh yeah. This is where I flex my biceps and you roll your eyes. Hands down the craziest thing I have ever been faced with was someone who wanted me to send officers to a Wendy's because he had ordered a double and only got a single from the drive-thru. He wanted someone arrested for theft of a burger patty. To this day, I'm still not sure if he was joking or not. I crashed into a church at night and went there the next morning because I felt guilty and hoping someone was there to speak with. I found someone who said they had reported all this to the police. Get to the police station to find out that I had some serious charges. Leaving the scene of an accident, not reporting it promptly, dangerous driving, things like that. Cop says he cannot drop the charges because they were already logged. I was scared malarkey-less for my court date. I was 18 years old and insisted on going alone, without my father, to try and show the judge I was responsible and accountable for my mistakes. He was so impressed with my honesty and the fact that I could have gotten away with it, but instead went back to the scene of the crime. He dropped everything. No reducing to lesser charges. Completely dropped them. To sum it up, own up to your mistakes and sometimes the blowback is not so bad. We sometimes leave our police cars run in the parking lot. If they're turned off, the battery is quickly drained from the computer, radar, radio, etc. One night at about 3 AM, a few of us were in the station and looked out the window and saw a guy standing in front of one of the running cars, facing away from the car, hands in the air. We watched him and he just stood there for a while. We finally went out to see what his story was, and he said he was turning himself in. He was only drunk. Did not even drive there. I have been a cop for over 10 years and I have never personally seen a person turn themselves in for something that was not a crime. I have seen people turn themselves in at a precinct for a crime they committed in another precinct where it took a while to find out exactly where and when the actual crime was committed. I have personally arrested a man at traffic court who was fighting a ticket I had written him a few months before. Turns out he had an open warrant. I think the admin judge upheld the ticket as well. That guy had a bad day, but he was rather nice about the whole thing. You should have seen the faces on the other people at the DMV. I guess I'll go. I work in corrections. Prison. We have a mental health unit, and they turn themselves in all the time. 1 inmate had a library book that was 1 day overdue. 2 inmate had traded canteen with another inmate. It's against the rules to trade, however it's not enforced, and ask me to take him to segregation. Many more. People be crazy. If you are reading this, you made it until the end of the video. There is no more after this. Click the thumbs up button since you liked the video because you made it until the end. On screen there should be some more videos similar to this. So either go do something else or watch another video. That's it. I do not know why you are still here. What are you waiting for, a secret message or something? Maybe someday. Who says one does not exist somewhere already? It does not. Or does it?